You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to us on. All right, we're going to talk about what's going on with the Freedom Truckers in Canada, which is really amazing. And I'm just going to tell you what the update is, okay, because I listen to so many podcasts, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I'll click on the podcast or the video because of the title, and then what is in the title is not there until like the very end of the video, and it's frustrating. So I'm going to tell you guys the story real quick, and then we'll start to talk about it. But GoFundMe seized the $10 million. It's Canadian dollars. $10 million that was raised on GoFundMe for the Freedom Truckers, and they seized it, didn't do anything, just seized it. They froze it. And then they said, okay, we're going to take that money and give it to charities of our choice.
Oh, my gosh.
And then people are having meltdowns over this. And Governor Ron DeSantis here in Florida was going to investigate GoFundMe and their practices. Even though this is up in Canada, they deal with Florida and everywhere. So the update is this. GoFundMe now says that all of the donations to the Freedom Truckers will be automatically refunded.
Yeah, that's a better move.
To the people that made the donations.
I mean, it's really not their place to take $10 million. And who knows where that money goes? How do we know they're going to give it away? They might keep a lot of it for them. They might say, okay, we're going to give it away, but we're going to keep 75% for ourselves. Or
who knows? They might give it to some radical leftist groups that are operating against the Freedom Truckers.
They would.
And, okay, now here's the thing. We'll get into some details about that story in a minute. I just wanted to get the story out in the beginning.
Let me ask you a question real quick before you go on. Do you think GoFundMe did this for politics or more because they saw this huge coffer of money and they're like, we want that money?
No. They're like everything else in the tech world.
Combination.
They're left-wing tyrants. Yeah. And whether liberals are in Cuba, the Soviet Union, and Nazi Germany,
or Canada,
they want to stop San Francisco. They want to stop anyone who disagrees with them to have a voice, whether it's Joe Rogan or the truckers. Now, This thing with the truckers is going to be the end of Trudeau's reign up there in Canada.
Agree.
You know, Canada, I know our friends in Canada, may not like, Canada's a little bit behind, okay, the United States. And what Canada is going through with the Freedom Truckers right now is what we went through in this country 12 years ago with the Tea Party, okay? You're 12 years behind Canada. The Freedom Truckers is the 2022 edition, Canadian edition of the Tea Party here in Florida. And the Tea Party eventually led to Trump coming down the escalator. So Canada is having the birth of their Tea Party with the Freedom Truckers. And they don't, they just are having a fit up there. The Ottawa police chief was threatening to call in the Canadian Army against these people.
I don't think the Canadians are used to this kind of stuff. I mean, they're usually very...
I guess not.
They have a reputation for being nice and easygoing and just kind of going along with the government and blah, blah, blah. And now
it's Trudeau, too cold to protest up there, probably.
Trudeau has just crossed, I think, a line that they're not going to they're just not going to tolerate.
No, and this is all a very good thing. And I want to read this story about the GoFundMe aspect. It's in the Epic Times. The GoFundMe fundraising platform said February 5th it will automatically refund donations made to the Freedom Trucker Convoy in Canada protesting mandates. GoFundMe said Friday it was preventing the funds from going to organizers of the Freedom Convoy and would instead send the money to established charities verified by GoFundMe, which could be Planned Parenthood for all you know. The justification for the unusual move,
or the Clinton Foundation,
could be. Oh, now I'm reading from the Epic Times, so when they say we, and oftentimes it's the Epic Times. The justification for the unusual move: we now have evidence from law enforcement that the previously peaceful demonstration has become an occupation with police. Reports of violence and other unlawful activity, GoFundMe said. There's been no violence from the truckers. I'm watching this stuff on social.
Yeah,
Believe
they're
me,
making this up.
if the truckers were violent, all of a sudden it'd be on television.
What they do, Brian, is what the left does here. They stage a little skirmish and make sure the cameras are available to catch it on film. And they have agitators, professional agitators that go in that aren't
they
a part
haven't
of
even
it.
done that yet because
That'll be coming
because
then. And then they label them violent.
If there were incidents of violence, it would be all over CNN and MSNBC, and they're not even covering the Freedom Convoy.
Yeah.
GoFundMe didn't provide any evidence of the alleged violence or unlawful
there you
activity. John Carpe, president of Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom, which it's a Canadian group because they spell center CENTRE.
Yeah, that's how they spell it.
A legal group representing the convoy organizers told Epic Times that the fundraising company has no credibility without – it goes on and on and on. Well, let me see. They got Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said it was a fraud for GoFundMe to commandeer $9 million. It was a little more than – in donations sent to support truckers and give it to causes of their own choosing.
$9 million came from the U.S.?
Yeah.
Wow.
No. It's $10 million.
Oh, I see.
Is $9 million
U.S.
in U.S.
I
dollars.
got you.
Governor DeSantis said he will work with Florida's Attorney General to investigate these deceptive practices. These donors should be given a refund. Now, just because they caved and are refunding the money doesn't mean Ron DeSantis is going to stop the investigation because if you plan on robbing a bank and you're in the midst of robbing a bank and you stop robbing the bank because the detectives are coming to investigate it, you've still done something. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, the top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, indicated the panel may probe what unfolded. So this is a good thing. And, the harassment against the Freedom Truckers, I've never seen anything like this. And in Canada, there's no question. So, we're in Florida, we're in America, so we don't. In America, we don't follow Canadian politics too much. But to my knowledge, the Freedom Trucker Convoy in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, by the way, is the largest political demonstration in the history of Canada.
I would say so.
There's never been
anything
anything like
careful
it.
they don't have a strike, because if they do that. If it gets, I don't exactly know what they're having like a convoy, right? But if they
they're sitting there in Ottawa right now,
right? But they're still
with their trucks.
There are truckers still delivering goods to stores.
They could have
right?
I guess.
If they had a countrywide strike, or I'm sure they have unions there. Obviously, it's Canada, so everything's unionized. That would be a big problem for Trudeau, and he would be backed into a major corner because you need truckers to get your food, to get your medical supplies. It would shut down the entire country if truckers went on strike. And they need to be careful. He needs to tread lightly. But the way he's handled this is the way a teenager would handle this. I feel like Trudeau's in Arrested Development. He's got the brain of a 12-year-old. He's not handling this right. He immediately started labeling them racist, violent, all these names. I'm not going to meet with them. They're this, they're that. That is not the way you handle that. He's bullying them, trying to bully them into submission, which is a tactic of the left. Instead, he should have said, I'll be happy to meet with them. We'll discuss it and negotiate something that we can all be happy with. That's what a grown-up does. We go to the table, we negotiate, and we put out a contract, and we figure out what we're going to do. I don't understand these mandates with truckers. They don't work in groups, in mass groups. They work alone for probably 85% of the time. The only time they really are with the people is when they pick up their goods and deliver their goods. And then it's only a small group. Why can't they just wear masks and do their job when they're out of their truck? Why do they have to be vaccinated? I don't understand this.
Because
they're not working in a hospital.
Because
for God's
Canada
sakes.
is not a free country, obviously. That's
a
one
stupid thing he's doing.
Now, it's also come out that the Attorney General in Missouri has launched an investigation into GoFundMe.
Oh boy!
So even though they still have deception here because they did not give the money to the truckers, they're going to refund it to the people who donated. And I'll tell you something. The Democrats have been using crowdfunding, GoFundMe, to pay off their people.
That's right.
Blasey Ford, who testified against Kavanaugh, she had I don't know if it was on Kickstarter or GoFundMe. I don't remember which. But she had a a financial drive either on GoFundMe or Kickstarter, and it raised a lot of money for her. And I believe there was a similar thing for Colonel Vindman when he was, committing treason against President Trump. And what the Democrats have done is they use crowdfunding to pay off people. And it's a corrupt thing that they used to give them book deals and everything.
You're right.
Now they don't have to do the phony book deal thing and then buy up all the books themselves to pay them off and things like this. They just put crowdfunding together. And this Freedom Trucker incident, they're not doing anything other than what Martin Luther King did.
Exactly.
Peaceful protest. They're doing a large sit-in. I'm sorry it's disrupting traffic. But the entire civil rights movement in the United States, the movement of Gandhi in India, was done the very same way. And the way that Trudeau is acting is like the Brits acted towards Gandhi, and the way that the racist, segregationist Democrats reacted to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was put in jail, by the Democrats, and everything they did to harass him. It was very similar.
They maligned his reputation.
Exactly.
And I'm going to ask my mom if she ever learned about, she was in Canada from the 40s to the 60s. And I'm going to ask her if there's a history of mass protests there, because I don't think there really is. I don't think the Canadians, not like here, where they've had issues so I think you're right. This might be one of the biggest countrywide protests. And for them to bring in Terry Fox, and bring in him to malign these people. He's like a national hero. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a great movie.
They said that they defaced the Terry Fox memorial statue.
Yeah, that was probably that was probably agitators they hired to do it. For them to do that, there is no way these truckers would do that. He's a national hero. He's one of the most famous Canadians, and he wouldn't do something like that. It's a real shame, but the tactics of the left, what they do. And they malign people. And you're right. They did the same thing with Martin Luther King and other activists. They malign them. They destroy their reputation. Cancel culture is not new.
Yeah.
They did things to the civil rights people as well.
Now, speaking of cancel culture, here they're going after the truckers. And, of course, they're also going against Mike Lindell, the Thomas Edison of sleep, the inventor of the MyPillow. And, Mike Lindell, his bank canceled him. He had 9 bank accounts for charities, for his businesses and everything. The bank closed his bank accounts. He's being sued for $1.3 billion with a B because he stands up for Trump. They call that defamation. MyPillow has been kicked out of all the major retailers. And Mike Lindell, who's been a sponsor of this program for quite some time, is asking people to support him by purchasing MyPillow products. And when you use our promo code at checkout, Kane, Kane, there are huge savings. So go to MyPillow.com. Now, for the savings I'm going to tell you about right now, these are huge savings, up to 66% off. When you go to MyPillow.com, scroll down until you see the image of Mike Lindell carrying the American flag, and click that on, and you're going to see incredible deals, the lowest price ever. These are flash sales, so you want to take advantage of them right away. Giza Dream Sheets. Kathy and I have 4 sets of these. We've got regular and flannel, 100% Giza cotton dream sheets from MyPillow. With the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, as low as $39.99. That's 60% off.
Deal.
The MyPillow My Slippers. I'm wearing my MyPillow My Slippers right now, and that's what I'm usually wearing during the podcast, are my MyPillow My Slippers. I have the tan fur-lined moccasin slippers, but they have many other styles and colors for both men and women, including pink. And with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, 50% off the MyPillow My Slippers. The MyPillow, the lowest price ever, with our promo code Kane, $19.98. Listen to this one. This one's greater than 66% off. The 6-piece MyPillow towel set. Kathy and I have the MyPillow towels. They are spectacular. The regular price, $109.99. With our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, just $29.99. That's over 70% off the normal price. This is a flash sale, and it's time to take advantage of it. And there are many other specials there. I just mentioned one more. The 3-inch MyPillow mattress topper, which is the thickest mattress topper that Mike Lindell makes. It's the same mattress topper that Kathy and I have and sleep on every night. It will change your life, the MyPillow mattress topper. Comes in every mattress size there is. With our promo code at checkout, Kane, Kane, 50% off. the My Pillow mattress topper. Now, whatever special you see at mypillow.com, you can take advantage of with our promo code KANE, K-A-N-E. But these specials I just went over, go to mypillow.com, scroll down till you see the image of Mike Lindell carrying the great American flag. Click that, and you'll see those specials. Remember, promo code KANE, K-A-N-E. And while we're on cancel culture, is just take a moment here to talk about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, I mean, I predict, and I don't think I'm the only one, this is not unique, that Joe Rogan eventually is going to go bye-bye from Spotify.
I predict, I was talking about that in the Marco group. I predict he'll be done by the end of the year, if not sooner.
Well, this is what's going on.
They're not going to give up on this guy.
They took a whole bunch of new episodes off of Joe Rogan's listing, from Spotify. And Spotify exclusively carries Joe Rogan. Remember, he made that deal. He's exclusively there. And it has not yet been released what the episodes were about, other than they were not related to COVID at all. They were involving other things. What they were, we don't know. People right now, as we speak, are going through the Joe Rogan catalog. Since everything moved to Spotify, it's a little more difficult to track down the history because
do you think he regrets
they're off the other platforms.
Making the deal with them now?
I don't know. So right now, people are going through them to try to see if they can find these new missing podcast episodes to find out what they found objectionable. We do know it wasn't about COVID. So I'm
guessing it's something racial.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out. When he first went there to Spotify, the staff over there, remember they were doing like worker protest and worker strikes out in the parking lot and things like this. Yeah. They objected to it. And, Joe Rogan is, I like Joe Rogan, but he's not really that controversial. They're making him controversial. And mostly what he does are celebrity interviews or newsmaker interviews. And, he is about 5% as controversial as Howard Stern was in his peak.
These interviews with these doctors has sent them over the edge.
I guess so.
That's what sent them over the edge. That Dr. Malone was it.
That was
just it.
Yeah.
They can't handle it.
He's about 5% as controversial as Rush Limbaugh was during the Clinton era. I mean, he really is not a controversial person. And
the problem is he's working for a company that is not aligned with his way. Rush Limbaugh worked for a company that was aligned with him and his way of thinking, I'm assuming. So whatever he did was great. And they were able to look at it as a business. Like the guy was bringing in so much money for them. But liberals are emotional. And they don't look at they're not business people. They're more into emotions and social justice. That's more important to them instead of just looking at it as a business point of view. Yeah. And they're caving into all this pressure. Removing episodes is a mistake. They're going down a rabbit hole that they're going to really regret. And the thing I've known with liberals, never apologize, and the more you acquiesce to them, the more they want. And if they keep removing, it's like negotiating with terrorists. If they keep removing episodes, they're going to want more removed. Oh, you got to take this one down now, and now this one, and we don't like this, and we don't like. They should have stood their ground from the beginning. And what's going to happen eventually, we'll see, is right now the artists that have left are older people that I don't think get tons of downloads anyway. I mean, my mom listens to
CDs.
Those people, and my mom still sometimes listens to CDs or Apple Music. But what's going to happen is eventually you're going to get a Justin Bieber or a Taylor Swift or a really top modern person who's going to pull, and that's going to be
too modern for us to even know who they are.
Right, and that's going to be a problem for Spotify. Right now, it's older people, ex-hippies. They're not a big part of their catalog at all. But you're going to start getting bigger names. Yeah. They're going to start jumping on this bandwagon because that's what people do. And I think that is when it's going to – I'm sure they're putting pressure on Bieber and Taylor Swift to do that. Their people or people – maybe, the Obamas are getting involved. I could see the Obamas calling Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber and saying, you need to remove your stuff right now.
Here's the thing that we don't know. When Spotify – I know they got this huge deal with him, $100 million deal over a number of years. We don't know, and I imagine it's pretty low, what percentage of their bottom line comes from Joe Rogan.
Oh, I would say a huge chunk.
And there's a
huge chunk, especially now. He's
I don't
so
know.
much publicity.
Primarily, it's music. Maybe this week,
he gets 11 million views a show.
Oh no, I understand.
That's tremendous.
But over the entire platform, what percentage is that? I don't know. Maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's 10%. Maybe it's 1%.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But you're right. If they start getting mainstream A-list acts of today that young people listen to, and their music gets pulled, that's when things will change. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
it really is
a problem for him then.
And we've got a problem with the millennial generation. The millennials are the most intolerant group of individuals I've ever known.
And Gen Z.
Yeah, they're so arrogant that they're right about everything.
They're intolerant.
And whoever disagrees with them should be stomped out. They're Nazis.
Well, they're
coddled.
Nazis. They've been coddled. They've been trained. It's not just on social media. You deal with it in the classroom. And it started really with the millennials. And I remember when I was teaching, when the millennials were younger, I was teaching like back in the early 2000s and stuff. And that was when that millennial generation was growing up and in middle school or whatever. And it started really with that being coddled. And it was just a slow drip where schools would give in to the kids. And the kids really had a lot of power, more than I'd ever seen. Like teachers were getting in trouble all the time because a student would say, "Oh, she said this." It was incredible how many times the administration would get mad at me over because I said something a student didn't like. I couldn't believe it. The teachers were losing control. And it started back then where parents and people in authority were caving into these younger kids and giving them a lot of control. And social media has allowed the younger generation to have a lot of power. I mean, look at somebody on TikTok who's like 20 years old and has 10 million followers, an influencer, they call it. They can get grown-ups or older people to do something they don't want to do because they make threats online. And it scares people, and that's what's happening.
Well, when we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. When we get back, something has happened with Joe Rogan. We're going to talk about it when he comes back. And this new thing that has happened today is why I'm predicting that he's going to go bye-bye from Spotify, which is not right and I don't support. There's something new. We're going to talk about that when we get back. And also coming up, the story at CNN with Jeff Zucker's departure. Donald Trump did that. Donald Trump got Jeff Zucker fired from CNN this week. We're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist, Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Warriors for Christ is a Christian podcast providing biblical teaching without the doctrines of man. In other words, they like to let the Bible explain itself. The format includes non-denominational readings and teachings from the Bible. They also have interviews and whatever the Lord puts on their hearts to present. Life in this world can be very stressful and filled with anxieties. Warriors for Christ will give you the biblical information you need to help deal with all life has to bring. Warriors for Christ confronts many false doctrines which are pervasive in this age and what some call the church in a box. And they also offer a full gospel ministry. Find Warriors for Christ on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify. Warriors for Christ. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can listen to Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Add it to your playlist right now. From author Tori U. Bates comes the book Rise, 5 Hours That Changed My Life, available on Amazon. When author Tori Bates was shot one Saturday evening in December 2021, it signified that life, as he and his family once knew, would be changed forever. It would take the strength of his wife and 10 children, his rock-solid faith, and a miracle from the Lord to see them through the coming hours as he fought to make sense of what had happened to him. In Rise, the author recounts the evening in graphic detail when an unprovoked attack attack, which would have killed him on any other day of the week, didn't, and he was able to return to the loving embrace of his family once more. Now, he reevaluates everything he thought he knew. He is more determined than ever to follow God's path, which saved him from another one of life's missteps, and to listen to his word at every opportunity. All proceeds from the book go to build a home for those with no address in solving childhood hunger and violence in Memphis, Tennessee. Order your copy right now. Rise, 5 Hours That Changed My Life, from author Tori U. Bates. Available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions on Amazon. From author Peter Allen Turner comes the book Zach Watkins, Blood Trail West, available on Amazon. The year is 1763. The French and Indian War is over, but even before the ink is dry, tensions reach a boiling point. English settlers, hungry for land, ignored the treaty's terms and poured over the Appalachian Mountains. They believed they had earned the right to hunt, trap, and explore the land to the west. Hoping to escape the political turmoil sweeping through the colonies, Zach Watkins and his Mohican friend Henry, two young men fresh from the war and thirsty for adventure, ventured into the Ohio Valley. What started as a peaceful journey quickly becomes a bloody trail. And soon, Zach and Henry find themselves once again fighting for their lives. Will Zach and Henry survive the latest war and avoid torture? Or will they die and be buried in an unmarked grave? Find out when you read Zach Watkins' Blood Trail West from author Peter Allen Turner. Available on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So a story broke today. This happened a couple days ago, but the story's just making the news today. And this is probably the beginning of the end of Joe Rogan. And this also may be why Spotify deleted a whole bunch of other podcast episodes of his. Joe Rogan, this is in the Independent out of the UK. India, what's her last name? R-A-R-I-E?
R-E.
Ari? I've never heard of her. She's very famous, I'm assuming, singer, right? India Ari shares resurfaced clips of podcaster Joe Rogan using the N-word 22 times. She put out a video. She bleeped out the N-word in the video. I'm not going to play it for you. You guys can find it online. She says, you take this money that you generate and you use it to invest in this guy, she asked Spotify. And, that's going to be the end of him, because what's going to start to happen now is there's going to be somebody else that follows up on this with her. Then there's going to be somebody else. They're all going to be famous. And, like we were talking earlier about the Obamas, but there's going to be a lot of black celebrities who are going to start to get involved. He'll probably have Colin Kaepernick on him because he doesn't have very much going on right now. And that's going to be the end of Joe Rogan. And it's unfortunate.
I agree.
Like this business that happened last week with the Holocaust denial from Whoopi Goldberg. All the conservatives, Sean Hannity was talking about this, but all the conservatives said, this was before this thing surfaced of Rogan, don't take her off the air, just don't watch. Call her out for what she's doing, but don't cancel her. That's not
what
how
about the
conservatives
video
are.
of the New York mayor calling white people crackers?
I'm going to play that in just a minute.
Should he get removed from his job too? That's a racial slur.
Yeah, let me play this.
I don't agree with Joe Rogan using that word, and I think it's a stupid thing to do.
No, but he's done.
And I don't agree with it.
That'll be the end of it.
It's his show, and this was before I think he was on Spotify.
Yeah.
And he said it on his show in certain contexts. He's saying in certain discussions, but he should have just said the N-word or whatever, not saying the whole word. I think that's dumb for anybody to say, especially if you're a Caucasian.
Yeah.
But you're just asking for trouble. But, I think you're right. I think that is going to be the final nail in the coffin for him. They got the Obamas on board. I mean, a white guy saying that word in this culture, that's it.
It's over for him.
They're done. I'm telling you, the pressure is going to become too strong.
It's going to be slow. It's going to be slow, but then there'll be this domino effect, and then one day, boom, it's just going to happen.
As much money as he's making, I think he's really regretting ever joining Spotify, because before He had freedom. He was making some money off his show. Now he has lost his freedom, and he's dealing with so much pressure. You got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth It's $100 million, but I don't think he's going to see all that money. He probably gets it in, every year, a certain amount, like $10 million a year for 10 years. But is it worth the aggravation he's dealing with and how the left are labeling him and going after him? This guy, I think, right now is under more pressure than anybody in the world of Hollywood, and they are really hammering on this guy, and they're not going to stop until they get their way. That's what liberals do. They will not give up. They will hammer away at this guy until Spotify gives in. That's exactly what's going to happen, and they're going to end up firing this guy.
Back when the deal was announced, which was a long time ago, we were talking about it on the podcast, and I said then, this is a big mistake for Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, and I'll tell you what I said back then, because I remember it clearly, because I knew what was going on with them and Rogan back then. But Joe Rogan was on a whole bunch of platforms, right? He was on all the podcasting platforms and a bunch of other places too.
Yeah.
And when he signed this deal with Spotify, it's an exclusive agreement. They put clips on YouTube, but that's just as a PR thing for the main show on Spotify. And he was getting at the time 8, 10, 11 million on an episode back then. And he had more people listening to him, Joe Rogan, than Rush Limbaugh had. And I said, what the liberals are doing is they're buying Joe Rogan because they want to silence him. Now, he's never been like a Trump guy, and he's not like a Republican, but he's conservative on a lot of things. And I said he's too much influence. They're buying Joe Rogan so that they can silence his voice. And people said, "You're crazy, Brian, you're crazy." I said, "I'm telling you." And I don't know how long ago that was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but I remember us talking about it. And I was right on the money with that. I mean, that's what they're doing. He is going to, if he loses his relationship with Spotify, he's not going to go away. He'll be around, but if he is, well, the N-word is a way to end someone.
I could see
he'll be greatly reduced in his influence.
I could see other platforms, not like Apple, Google, not allowing his show on there. If he can't upload his show, then he's screwed. And I think he's really regretting ever making this deal with them.
And a lot of people will say, well, he'll go to Rumble. He's not going to have the kind of influence. If he goes to Rumble, obviously he's Joe Rogan, and he'll probably have the number one show on Rumble. But Joe Rogan's success is not because he's talking in a conservative chamber of listeners. Yeah. He reaches people of all political stripes, and that's where his influence comes, and that's what they want to. And I'll play this now because Kathy mentioned it. But the mayor of New York, Adams, this jerk that isn't really doing anything about these police shootings or anything else. A tape came out of him, videotape. I'll play the audio.
I mean, how is this different than Joe Rogan?
Of using the C word, crackers, which is the N word for white people. Mm-hmm. And let me play this, and he's bragging about it. Listen to this.
Every day in the police department, I kicked those crackers' ass, man. I was unbelievable in the police department when you keep one of the black law enforcement. Came a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a captain. You know the story. Some people all of a sudden trying to reinvent me. But
yeah, well, that is the equivalent. Crackers, that's the C word there. That's the equivalent to the N word for white people. I mean, that's hard. That's just bigotry. That's just racist bigotry. And he's the mayor of New York.
Yeah, nobody's calling for him to be canceled or removed.
It's okay for him to do that.
There's a double standard. That's fine.
He's allowed to do that.
I don't like either guy using those words. So don't get me wrong, but I don't think there should be laws against it or people should be canceled. The solution is simple. If you don't agree with Joe Rogan, you just don't listen to his damn show. That's all. You don't need to listen to his show. And if you want to remove your music from Spotify, that's your right as a musician to do that.
Absolutely.
It's your right to do that. But I think what's going to happen is, I'm telling you, the Obamas are calling some people, and they're going to be Spotify just signed a big deal with Meghan and Harry. I mean, they just got money to throw around. They're giving them
Who wants to listen to them?
I don't know. They are the most boring couple
What
in
do
the
they have to
country.
say?
Nothing exciting. I think they're the most boring couple on the planet. And Spotify paid them $25 million. They have a deal with them. They're just throwing. They could give us $1 million, and it'd be much more interesting.
Yes, for us too.
Exactly. And so I think that the Obamas, they're all in with the royals. They're going to start pressuring Harry and Meghan, but that's a lot of money to walk away from, $25 million. But they might start pressuring these people, like Harry and Meghan, or people in the entertainment industry, to leave. They might be calling Taylor Swift or Justin Bieber or Post Malone or whoever's big. The Weeknd. I don't know. That's what my daughter listens to. The Post Malone and these people. They might call them and pressure them. You got to remove your music. And let me tell you, if you're in that business and you're a big liberal and Obama calls you personally and asks you to do that as a favor, that's a big deal. I mean, and a lot of people would do it. They would do it. I'm just waiting for bigger names to start pulling.
It's going to happen.
But I think this N-word thing is definitely a problem
I'll tell you,
him. Not a problem for the mayor of New York. It's a problem for Joe Rogan.
Black Lives Matter is getting a lot of bad PR over these real estate purchases.
Oh, yeah.
So someone at Black Lives Matter will probably start to get involved in this because it'll take the heat off of their real estate purchases while they're doing this. So he's in trouble. Now, this week, Jeff Zucker, the never-Trumper that was running CNN, was fired over this relationship with an underling. And now we are finding out exactly what happened. And Jeff Zucker was fired because of a Trump donor and who got him fired. So Trump got Zucker fired.
So it wasn't Chris Cuomo.
No, it was. They used all that as an excuse. But let me read this to you. This is in the Daily Mail. Billionaire Trump donor, who was the largest shareholder of the network's new owner, Discovery. Remember, Discovery bought CNN. So the largest shareholder of the parent company of CNN wants to restore CNN back to like a real news organization. His name's John Malone, and you've seen him interviewed on some things before. He insisted on Jeff Zucker's departure after his affair was exposed. John Malone is the chairman of Liberty Media, and he's Discovery's largest shareholder. Remember, Discovery, it's not Discovery Channel. Discovery's the company, and it's the parent company of CNN. Right. He previously donated $250,000 to Trump's inauguration, and he has said that he wanted to restore CNN to impartial journalism after years of left-wing bias. After CNN chief Jeff Zucker's relationship with this Alison Gullist was revealed, Malone made it clear that policies must be followed. CNN will be folded into Discovery as part of a $43 billion with a B dollar deal. Zucker was due to stay on in some capacity and even take a bigger role at Discovery, but now has been cast out.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Why would they keep him on? I mean, their ratings are in the toilet.
Yeah, CNN is now investigating if Zucker had an inappropriate relationship with Andrew Cuomo, the governor. A source tells Rolling Stone that Gullist and Zucker were also advising Cuomo at the start of the pandemic, like Chris Cuomo was fired for doing later on. So this is an interesting thing. So this Trump donor, Malone, got him fired, and I've seen him on Newsmax and on other interviews talking about reshaping CNN. And you know, we could get into a situation with this guy where CNN ends up being like a conservative news outlet.
That would be insane. I would be happy if they were just news. And they went
that
out.
Would be conservative. In a way, you know,
if they
it would
went
seem conservative.
More field reporters, more investigative journalism. Just tell the news. Just give people what's going on. And don't be afraid. Don't hold back. We can handle it. And let us think for ourselves instead of putting it through a million filters and editorials and deciding, okay, what kind of package can we put this in to get our personal message across? Just give us the straight news, investigate, hold the politicians' feet to the fire, and stop being – but the problem is with these news organizations – eventually they might have good intentions, but they always end up being a tool for the politicians to use as propaganda. I mean, they all do, you know, and when they have so many people watching And I think maybe that's part of the problem with Joe Rogan is they're trying to control him in their own way. And he has such a massive audience that they can't control what he's saying and who he has on his show, and it's freaking them out. We'll see what happens. It'll be exciting. Like I said, it'll be
this is
interesting
big,
to see
Kathy.
how it unfolds.
There was a story yesterday that Democrats on Capitol Hill are in meltdown mode because CNN has been their PR piece to push their agenda.
Oh, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And nobody watches MSNBC.
Well, this is what people don't understand because I know, if you're conservative, you think, oh, nobody watches CNN. It doesn't matter. Well, just because we're not watching CNN does not mean no one is.
That's right.
And I know it doesn't beat Fox in the ratings, but CNN, the way it works – CNN is, I don't agree with this, but it's true. CNN is viewed as the news source of record. And CNN, what stories and tone they take drive the rest of the mainstream media. So what the freak out with the Democrats is that if they lose that, they lose the ability to control the narrative. And the Democrats with this Zucker change and with John Malone coming in, who's a big Trump donor, the Democrats – they've lost the narrative, and this is happening at a perfect – it may not happen in time for the midterm elections fully, but CNN as we know it will not exist during the presidential election season for Trump in 2024. And they
not the way it is now.
No. And the air staff over at CNN are still sucking up to Jeff Zucker like he's still the boss, which has got to infuriate John Malone. Now, Don Lemon – last night, when it opened his show with a monologue, I'm going to play it for you. At the end of this, he breaks down in tears over the departure of Jeff Zucker. And I got to assume that John Malone is ticked off and annoyed at Allison Camerata, Don Lemon, all the rest continuing to suck up to Zucker. And they're sitting Shiva over there for Jeff Zucker.
I think that's a mistake.
For
them to do that.
They have no sense of what's going on.
I just wouldn't address it at all on the air.
No. Well, let me get to this. So this is Don Lemon last night. At the end of this, he burst into tears a little bit. Listen.
So everyone, a personal message that I want to deliver at the top of the show. And hang on one second. Just grab my notes here.
A prepared, he's got to get this off his chest, but he's got notes for it. So this is a script. This is fake news, people. Don Lemon, fake news. He's got to get his notes for his emotional statement.
Unbelievable.
I don't have any notes here. I'm just talking off the top of my head. Don Lemon, though. His completely 100% natural emotional breakdown on CNN. He needs his notes for it.
So everyone, a personal message that I want to deliver at the top of the show. And hang on one second. Just grab my notes here. A lot of folks have been watching, wondering what's happening. It's been a really tough day today and a tough few days for us here at CNN all week, really. I didn't want to talk about it until tonight. So the truth is that we're all heartbroken because we lost our leader here. We lost the man who was the backbone.
Okay, now John Malone believes he's the leader of CNN, and now they're saying that they're leaderless at CNN. Don Lemon's going to get fired next.
He's going to get fired over this.
And he's got a scandal going on with him, too.
Yeah, I don't think his little speech was planned at all.
Of course, he's got notes.
And he's an idiot because what I think is happening is they know that they're going to get fired. They know it's coming. And I think they're all going to quit or in solidarity, or they're setting the stage.
They're doing something.
They're doing something because I think they see the writing on the wall that they're all going to get canned.
Yeah.
The glue and the spirit of this company. The man who I personally credit with changing my life, a man who believed in me when nobody else did. He is the reason that you have a gay black man with 2 hours of primetime, a show with my name on it. The only anchor of color in primetime on cable news. Think about that. You want to talk about diversity? Here.
Well, that's interesting because other than Fox and Newsmax, the rest of the cable news are liberal. So he's saying that the liberal outlets are racist, like MSNBC. So. Joy Reid's on in primetime.
Yeah, well, I guess
she's
he
black.
Doesn't count MSNBC.
Rachel Maddow's on in primetime. She's gay.
Exactly.
So, what a...
First of all, he's very self-important and nobody cares.
Isn't he?
Yeah,
Isn't
nobody
he?
cares.
Yeah. He thinks he's the first.
Yeah. No. It's not the first anything.
No.
It has been hard to come into work this week, not only for me, but for so many of us here at CNN, my colleagues, 3,000 of us, more than 3,000 of us. So let me just say this to my colleagues who may not have been here as long as I have, the younger folks who haven't weathered these storms. I've been at this network for almost 16 years.
Too long.
We have been through ups and downs, ratings highs, rating lows, everything, regime changes. We've been through a lot.
When were those ratings highs during Don Lemon's time?
No.
Yeah.
And through it all, our mission has remained the same, to deliver the facts, to deliver the news. It is what we did when Ted Turner turned the lights on here. It is what we did through 2 Gulf Wars, through 9/11, through Katrina, through an insurrection.
Oh, I got to throw that in.
Jeff Zucker may not have launched this network, but he revived it. He made it relevant again. He steadied it for the last decade. He left us with a very good blueprint going forward. So for all of you at home watching, you should know that I and my colleagues will continue to do exactly what he would want us to do, and that is to do what I'm going to do right now. Deliver the news, no matter what it is, without fear or favor. So thank you, Jeff Zucker, for everything you did for everyone at this network, and for what you did to the entire country, for the entire country. So let's just move on. Good evening, everyone. I'm Don Lemon, and this is CNN.
Oh, my goodness. Was that part of the notes, too?
What a self-important windbag.
Isn't he?
Oh, without fear or favor. I think
What does that mean?
I think CNN has a lot of favoritism towards the left. I mean, they really delude themselves into thinking that they're unbiased. I mean, because their thinking is that their way is the right way and that they really believe they're honest journalists. They lied about the Russia collusion for 3 years. Now, maybe not everybody at the network knew it was fake news, but a lot of them did, and they went with it anyway. They had Michael Avenatti on every day for a year bashing Trump. Mm-hmm. No proof of anything. He kept talking about evidence that he never produced. Stormy Daniels, I mean, they spent 4 years, 5 years bashing a sitting president with zero evidence, zero proof of anything, and they want you to think they're credible. This is why their ratings are in the toilet, because nobody trusts CNN, nobody on the left or the right. And let me tell you, this is a sinking ship. You're watching the Titanic go down.
No doubt about that. No doubt. Now, listen.
It's kind of fun. I hate to say it.
We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there is a lot more to talk about. Bill Maher, I'm going to get into this when we get back, but Bill Maher spoke out on the Whoopi Goldberg Holocaust denial scandal and said what I consider to be some of the most racist comments made about an African American since color television has been in everyone's living room in this country. And he's blinded so much by his liberal arrogance, he does not realize how racist what he said was. We're going to get to that after the break. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will be back right after this.
The search for the most dangerous book in the world is about to begin. From authors Wayne E. Haley and Sean P. Haley comes An Apology to Lucifer, now available for sale at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, anapologytolucifer.com. In An Apology to Lucifer, Father Thomas Morelli thought he knew the story behind Lucifer's fall from heaven. However, upon making the acquaintance of renowned book authenticator Lorenzo Pellegrini and being invited to stay in the opulent Venice villa belonging to Pellegrini's master, Thomas discovers he has only heard part of the story. In Boston, psychoanalyst, best-selling author, and outspoken atheist David Wright has been tasked to handle the funeral arrangements of his dear friend, Albert Kennedy. What could have driven this controversial exorcist to take his own life? The answer, it seems, is contained in a book that isn't supposed to exist. Joining forces, Lorenza, David, and Thomas must race against time to prevent an ancient battle from reigniting. If you enjoyed The Da Vinci Code, you will love this book, An Apology to Lucifer, the most anticipated supernatural thriller of 2022, is now available at BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, anapologytolucifer.com. Order your copy right now. Are you looking for something new, exciting, and unique to decorate your home or office with? Kaleem rugs are colorful, they're functional, and a great way to add personality and functionality to any room. You will find a great selection of Kaleem rugs in the Etsy shop Kaleem. That's K-I-L-I-I-M on Etsy.com. Kaleem is an Egyptian social enterprise and lifestyle brand that aims to revive and sustain local Egyptian crafts and their communities by introducing modern designs to time-honored techniques. Inspired by the artisans they work with and driven by the impact this store has had on weavers in Fowa, a small village situated along the lush Nile Delta. Their craftsmen come from a long line of Kaleem artisans who consider the craft a part of their heritage. The artisans who make their products are preserving the Egyptian cultural heritage by practicing a craft that's been passed down to them generation to generation. The rugs are beautiful and shipped directly to you to enjoy in your home or office. They are a perfect addition to any space. Visit the Etsy shop right now. Etsy.com/shop/Kaleem. K-I-L-I-I-M. Make sure to use the coupon code RADIO for great savings on your purchase. That's coupon code RADIO. Kaleem. Modern living. Handcrafted. Time-honored stories. Etsy.com/shop/Kaleem. If you're searching for motivation and inspiration in your life, there's a book you will want to add to your must-read list. From author Letitia Davis, Broken Pieces Restored, available on Amazon. From a young age, author Letitia Davis's life was destined for greatness. Growing up a military brat, she lived a life that some people would dream of having. But what they saw on the outside as perfect wasn't the case. Dealing with her self-esteem, mental and physical abuse led her through life broken and unsure about how she ended in a place of depression and unsure of what she wanted out of life. But one thing she did know was that she did not want to stay stuck there forever. Letitia started on a path to healing by taking a look back at her past and working her way up to the present life by rebuilding a stronger foundation of healing and building a stronger bond within. Broken Pieces Restored is a motivational book that talks about the author's life and how she grew up and ended up in a toxic marriage that broke her down, and shares how she gathered up the strength to restore herself spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Order your copy right now on Amazon, available in Kindle and paperback. Broken Pieces Restored, from author Letitia Davis.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you so much. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in this episode description and every episode, as well as a direct link on my website, BrianCraigShow.com. And Patreon supporters, there are perks to that, including commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you on each and every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Jacqueline, Rick, Rich, and Nick. Again, those are our top Patreon supporters. And again, there's a link in the description of this and every episode. The direct website address to our Patreon page is patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. All right, so all this Holocaust denial business of Whoopi Goldberg, she's on a 2-week suspension. And it's really 50-50 whether she comes back. I know she makes a lot of money there. We found out she's worth $60 million. But, you know, someone like Whoopi, she's got an expensive lifestyle, and she's probably got a lot of family members that she's supporting too. And
it's a matter of principle too.
And $60 million doesn't mean she has $60 million of cash. You know, that if that number's even accurate,
it could be homes.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know,
she could own 2 homes worth 15 million, 10, 20 million just
each.
On that. Yeah.
You never know. So, you know, but Whoopi Goldberg, though, it's embarrassing for her to go through this because, you know, when she came over to The View, she was still considered kind of like an A-lister, you know, and she's been a big star for a long time. She got the Oscar for Ghost, I think, in 1990. And Whoopi Goldberg has never been told no. I mean, she's gotten her way, you know, like a lot of celebrities all these years. And, you know, so rational thinking may not be involved here. Well, anyway, Bill Maher came out and spoke about the Whoopi Goldberg situation, and I believe that what he says is he doesn't mean it to be, because I don't think he realizes it is. Because if he did, he wouldn't have aired this. This show isn't live. It's taped, right? He said what I consider to be very racist comments about Whoopi Goldberg, and we'll play this for you right now, and then we'll talk about it as we go. And let us know in the comments, is Bill Maher's take on this racist towards Whoopi Goldberg? Listen to this. This is Bill Maher.
That's it. Mission accomplished. We talked about it.
Can we just understand that part of our sorry racial history in this country is that the point of view from a black person is often going to be very different and sometimes shocking to a white person.
Okay. Now, before we get into the rest of this, we all, obviously, this is a country where people have different opinions that are based on our backgrounds and how we lived and our experience. You know how that, it's called opinions. But there are certain things that in our culture we agree on, right? Supposedly freedom, certain things. The Holocaust was genocide against the Jewish people. So an attempted genocide. There's certain things that no matter what your background or ethnicity may be, we have a common agreement and civilization on.
Going to be very different and sometimes shocking to a white person. I pulled the quote from when Whoopi defended Michael Vick. Remember Michael Vick was the football player who was electrocuting dogs? And I'm a lifelong PETA board member. Okay. Also,
what I don't get about that? Okay, why? Being on PETA, that's a good thing. Okay, I'm against animal cruelty. That's one of the things that, as a society, we all agree on. But not necessarily. Wait till you hear what this PETA board member says in a second. We'll see if he really thinks like you would imagine a PETA board member would. But what amazes me about the animal rights activists is they're all pro-abortion.
Yeah.
They're all pro-abortion, but
incredible.
I don't like those commercials on TV with the abused animals and everything. I don't watch those. They're painful to watch. But I'm also pro-life, so I don't quite get that. But anyway, back to that.
Also someone who believes the Nazis were very racist. Okay. Oh, you. But here's what she said about Michael Vick. He's from the South. This is part of his cultural upbringing. For a lot of people, dogs are sport. Instead of just saying he's a beast and he's a monster, this is a kid who comes from a culture where this is not questioned. Okay? You see the point here? Again, I don't agree with her on Michael Vick.
Okay. I'm glad he doesn't agree with her about Michael Vick with the dog fighting and the electrocution of dogs. Remember, he had a dog fighting ring going on, and the electrocution, I believe, was how he was euthanizing the injured dogs. He doesn't seem very passionate about it, though, for a PETA board member.
No.
PETA is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. You'd think he'd have more passion in his voice of disgust with Michael Vick.
Well, and when you play more, what he's trying to do, which is absurd, is make a racial distinction about very common things that, like you said, most people with a brain in their head would understand are wrong. Anybody with a brain in their head would understand the Nazis and what happened. It's not a racial thing. He's excusing her ignorance by using her race.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very racist. And you'll see that when you play more.
Yeah.
He's basically saying she deserves a pass because she's black. And in their culture, they don't understand these things. Is basically what he's saying here. It's absolutely insanity. And this is a tactic. The left don't realize it, but they have a history of treating black people like children. And they can't get his driver's license. They don't understand the Holocaust. I mean, it is so insulting.
It's racist.
He's trying to help her, but he's really insulting her and the entire black community. I think anybody with a brain in your head, like I said, no matter what color your skin, understands the Holocaust, understands electrocuting dogs is bad. And for him to excuse it as part of the black culture to be ignorant and stupid is racist.
And
play the rest of what he said.
And I didn't remember that
crazy.
Whoopi Goldberg was defending Michael Vick
Yeah, no, she did.
That shows you.
She said it was part of the culture.
That shows you how racist she is. If Tucker Carlson were electrocuting dogs and had a dog fighting ring going on in his mansion, do you think Whoopi would say, "Oh, that's Tucker's culture"?
I mean, they gave Mitt Romney a harder time for putting the dog on top of his car, which was another dumb thing to do.
But we grew up in two different worlds, which the white people imposed upon the black people.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
going to sometimes.
Okay, now, Whoopi Goldberg.
Insanity.
The Whoopi Goldberg is part of a world that most of us are not.
Yeah.
Rich Hollywood elite.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoopi Goldberg has been an adult a lot longer than she was a child, and she was talking about how she had Mel Gibson at her house, and she was at his house. She was not.
We don't have Mel Gibson at our house.
She is not an impoverished person who's living in but in Bill Maher's mind, black people are all poor, all live in government housing, uninformed, and support savage things like dog fighting rings and electrocution of dogs.
Insanity.
They're going to sometimes have a very different opinion. And the answer is not to make them sit in a corner for 2 weeks. That is insulting. It's so insulting to make a 65-year-old. I mean, the person at ABC News said, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. Reflect. How insulting for someone of her age, who's a sophisticated person, and the impact of her comment. There is no impact. There aren't neo-Nazis waiting for the green light from the lady on The View to go out and do a new crystal knot.
Okay, so that's awful what he said.
Yeah.
Everything about it's awful.
Yeah, I agree. That's just crazy.
I mean, I know they have this bond because they're, comedians.
I know what he's trying to say, but he's basically, like I said, it sounds to me like he's basically saying, there's cultural differences that we have to respect.
Mm-hmm.
And in the black culture, they don't understand the Holocaust, and they don't understand that treating dogs like that is bad.
Yeah.
Everybody does have a different point of view, but it doesn't have to do with the color of your skin necessarily. It could be economic issues. We all grow up differently, but I think, like you said, there's certain absolutes that people do agree upon if they are civilized and moderately educated. I don't think Whoopi Goldberg's a dumb woman, but I think she is ignorant of many things. And what really is happening is she is believing an alternate history from CRT. And I think CRT has been around a lot longer than people realize. It's just been in subgroups and it hasn't been talked about. But there are alternate histories being spoken about and taught in certain schools. And the Holocaust, where they're saying that Jews were not a race, and because they look white, it's different than it's a different type of oppression. I think that is taught to certain groups. Mm-hmm. And I think she believed that. And, maybe she sees it differently now. But I think what Bill Maher said is racist, what he said. I'm sorry. The way he looked at it and the way he excused her behavior, blaming it on the color of her skin, to me is nuts. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. If you're a person of color, tell me, do you agree with us or not? That's how I read it, that it was a little bigoted what he said.
More than a little. A lot.
I mean, that's how I saw it. He should have said, look, she has her own opinion. She's entitled to it. She's wrong. Maybe she'll learn from this. But no, she's black, so you have to excuse her ignorance is basically what he was saying.
Exactly. Now, we're not watching the Olympics. We usually do. What's the fact that the Olympics are being allowed to take place in Beijing is pretty outrageous. And the media in this country, we all know about the Peter Schweizer book about how Pelosi and Biden and all these Democrats are on the take with China. They've all been bought off by China. The media too. I can't play this to you because it's not in English. It's in Dutch, but I'll describe it to you. And I did tweet this, and there's an article at thegatewaypundit.com about it with the full video. But yesterday in Beijing, a Dutch reporter was reporting live from the Olympics outside on live Dutch television, national television. And a Chinese official ripped him off the air live on TV.
I saw this.
And it was brutal. It was...
What was he saying?
I don't know. He was speaking Dutch.
Well, he must have said... how would he
I heard him and the Chinese guy... the Chinese guy was his Chinese Communist Party overseer. So the Chinese guy speaks Dutch.
So he said something upset him.
And they were talking to each other when he was ripping him off the camera. And they were, I don't know if they were speaking Chinese or Dutch. I don't know. It was very confusing. And it happened live on TV. I saw this yesterday. I have not seen this in any mainstream media outlet reporting. And the media loves stories that are about them.
Absolutely. And especially when they're being silenced.
You know, the United States currently is a client state of China. And if you notice what's going on here
seems so.
with Biden and the tone of the government. Now, this will change when Trump's back in 2024 and Ron DeSantis is president in 2028 with Carrie Lake as his vice president, perhaps. I don't know. But in 2028.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing.
I love her. She's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. But right now, what we have the government of the United States who is propping China up to be the leader of the world, not the United States. I've never seen anything like this before.
I mean, look at what Nancy Pelosi
and it's happening
said
from within
to the athletes, like giving them a warning and
don't
upset them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just insanity.
Yeah, and the media in this country to not cover this story of the Dutch reporter. I saw one report and they say, well, he didn't have the proper permits.
Please.
Really need permits when you're, with the international media at the Olympics. He has something. He's there with his crew. I've never seen something. No. The only time I
really want to know what he was saying.
I don't know. They didn't say in the article.
I'd love to know.
But what the last time I saw anything close to this is when reporters were reporting during the Gulf War in 1991 from Baghdad. Peter Arnett from CNN. There were a few times when Peter Arnett on CNN would say, well, I can't discuss that because my Iraqi overseer is telling me I can't discuss that.
Here's the deal. China is a communist country, and if they have rules and reporters don't have freedom of speech, fine, but then don't have the Olympics there. If they cannot allow a reporter from Holland, the Olympics is all countries coming together for sport, but if they cannot allow a reporter to speak freely, then the Olympics should not be in their damn country.
Exactly.
Okay? Have the Olympics here or Canada or England or somewhere. I don't know why they're in Beijing again, but don't have them in a country where they're not allowed to speak freely. That's it. That's the end of it. Why the hell are they there again?
Caitlyn Jenner was on Outnumbered yesterday.
Yeah.
And what Caitlyn Jenner said was a very good point because, he was Olympian. He followed this stuff.
She.
Yeah, well, okay. And I did not realize that Bruce Jenner competed in the 1972 Munich Olympics for Team USA. That was his first Olympics. He became the big champion in 76. And he was just 2 buildings away from the Israeli team was completely massacred.
Incredible.
By Islamic terrorists. And I could tell that he was shook up by that, even though it was 1972.
Oh, yeah.
But what Caitlyn Jenner said, that made a good point because Harris Faulkner, why are they even in Beijing? And he said the Olympics are so expensive.
Yeah.
They are. Most countries can't afford it, and a lot of the others don't want the expense.
No, they don't.
And China, they don't care about expense, so they want it, so they're willing to pay for it.
They already have that Olympic Village from not that long ago.
Is this the same one, or they build a new one?
I think it's the same one, but the Olympics are very expensive to host. I know that. And
they got to build all those venues.
They got it. That's right. And not only that, the housing and everything's so much money now. Countries don't want to host them really anymore as much as they used to because it is a huge expense. And then you have these leftover Olympic villages. What they should do is pick like 6 places around the world or 8 places around the world that they're strategically chosen and build Olympic villages, and they just continually go to those same places over and over again so the stuff gets reused and doesn't just get used once and then it goes, corroded and all this stuff. Just pick like certain cities where, it's going to repeat like Los Angeles or Salt Lake City and just rotate between those 8 places or whatever. I think that would be fine. I don't know. But, they like to have a tradition of having them in different places around the world. But since it is so expensive, maybe having set locations that are rotated is a better strategy. I don't, you know what I mean?
I don't.
Then they can reuse them over and over again. Maybe they always have the summer in Los Angeles, and maybe Rio or whatever, and then the winter have them in New York or Salt Lake City and in France or something.
I don't know
What I mean?
I don't know. I just know that what's going on now is awful. Now, listen, we're going to take a break. When we get back, there's so much more to talk about. Alec Baldwin, right now, as we are speaking, is trending on Twitter.
Oh, boy.
We'll talk about that when we get back. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Don't go anywhere. We will be back right after this.
NFTs are the newest art medium, and they're taking the world by storm. Did you know that NFT is one of the highest trends searched online? NFT Tel Aviv is all about art. They're an NFT artist agency that's a full-service talent agency, representing photographers, digital drawers, musicians, video art, and 3D artists. Some of the services NFT Tel Aviv offer are management and representation, development and minting, art research, and a lot more. They proudly represent more than 40 fine artists and have helped them get into the NFT world, and focusing on fine art as well as small and boutique collections with just 20 to 50 pieces in the collection. If you are interested in NFTs or NFT as an artist, this is the agency for you. Based in Tel Aviv, and they trade worldwide. NFT Tel Aviv, online at nft-tlv.co.il. nft-tlv.co.il. When it comes to self-help, you want to get right to the point. The workbook from author Alicia Puzzany, Emotional Strength Explained, can help you see results quickly instead of overthinking or operating from a naive, unsure, or people-pleasing state where you look for immediate gratification. With the help of this workbook, you can become stronger emotionally. Whether you're embarking on something new or working through things with yourself or others, understanding what makes you, you is the crucial first step in coming out on top. Your emotions don't have to control your life. You can learn a better way. With this workbook, you'll work toward a stronger, more confident, less needy you. It's for adolescents, teenagers, adults, and seniors. This is an easy-to-use workbook. With just a few minutes each day, you can become stronger and feel better. You can use this workbook over and over through various areas and stages of your life. Life isn't easy. When times get tough, we need to dig deep and utilize our emotional strength. Emotional Strength Explained from author Alicia Puzzany. Available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon and the author's website, aliciapuzzany.com. From author Martin Armitage comes a book that you will want to add to your must-read list, Switching Gears, available on Amazon. When author Martin Armitage decided to hike the entire 273-mile length of the Long Trail, stretching from the Canadian border in the north all the way to the southern end of the state of Vermont, he never guessed that it would forever change the way he looked at his life. Just a few short days into the walk and forced to call a halt as an injury prevented him from continuing, he was filled with anger and a sense of failure and frustration. But what seemed like a flop on the surface was soon transformed into something else, as Martin came to recognize his own overconfidence and arrogance had played a significant part in his failure, and galvanized himself to return to the trail with a very different attitude. In Switching Gears, author Martin Armitage tells the story of how a sudden epiphany he experienced about Mother Nature led to a new respect for the great outdoors, and how that change helped him to rediscover the meaning of his own life and what was really important in it. In essence, he came to understand that whether in life or hiking a trail, enjoying the journey is the most important part of it and not the final destination. This book is perfect for book clubs. Order your copy right now. Switching Gears from author Martin Armitage. Available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. So Alec Baldwin is trending on Twitter right now, and I thought, well, maybe they must have arrested him. No, I couldn't believe this. This is insane. He's trending right now as I'm speaking. He's going to the film festival in Colorado, and this is on Fox News. Alec Baldwin's inclusion in Colorado Film Festival sparks backlash on Twitter. Listen to this. It says here, Alec Baldwin's inclusion in plans for the Boulder International Film Festival. Now, keep in mind, now, so far as I know, Joe Rogan's killed no one. Alec Baldwin killed a woman in cold blood and shot another.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's getting canceled.
Right.
They're trying to.
Right.
Alec Baldwin, who killed a woman in cold blood, shot another. He's an honored celebrity here at the Boulder International Film Festival in Colorado as a special guest programmer. So he's even like a special guest? This is insane. This March, it's going to be in March next month, prompted negative reactions on Twitter. No negative reactions from the film festival canceling him and say, you know what? I mean, you know, who's going to have OJ there too? OJ Simpson coming?
That's nuts.
You know, maybe Michael Vick can come too, you know? The news came just months after the actor accidentally shot and killed. Well, has it been determined that it was accident? You know, Alec Baldwin's a hothead. And I find it very suspicious that we have not seen any video or even still photographs other than him whining on the phone to his wife and agent about himself with his mask in his hand. Remember, he had the mask on just to make sure he's social distance and everything. You're telling me no one on that set had took pictures or video of this? And how do we have the police done an investigation and released the results and determined that it was accident? Alec Baldwin's a hothead who's always getting in fights with people all over the place the entire time he's been famous.
Over stupid things.
Photographs.
Like parking spaces and
yeah, exactly.
Stuff that normal people don't get that angry about.
Exactly. And, I'm sure that he argues with directors and camera people, people
everybody.
On set.
He's just got that personality.
Maybe he got angry and, who knows?
It's possible.
But anyway, this is Fox News I'm reading from. The news came just months after the actor, Alec Baldwin, accidentally shot and killed director of photography Halea Hutchins, on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico. They're not going to finish the movie, so Rust is not premiering at the festival. How does this benefit the city or the festival? How much is he getting paid? One person commented on Twitter. Another person on Twitter wrote, is this a joke? It has to be satire, right? Why is Colorado always involved in bad stuff? I hope this isn't real. It's interesting. What they're quoting here are not officials, not someone in the city, not the Hollywood liberals that are at this film festival that are into gun control saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have a paid person and programmer at our film festival who shot a woman dead and shot the director too.
I don't understand what they're thinking.
Others have called the choice disappointing.
Unless they want publicity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they figure if we do this, we'll get everybody talking about our film festival. That could be part of it, too. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, tell that to Michael Vick we were talking about earlier. He got a lot of publicity. Is that good? The festival has limited...
I never heard of the Colorado Film Festival. Now I know about it.
Yeah, you know not to go.
Well, I wasn't going to go anyway.
The festival limited comments after receiving a majority of negative ones. This is insane. The shooting, it goes on about the shooting. Nothing here about... No. Where all the... Okay, as a guest programmer, Alec Baldwin has selected 3 films, right? Dr. Strangelove, The Most Dangerous Man in America. That's about Daniel Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers. And Julia. I don't remember what Julia is. Is that an old classic film? I think that's an old classic film. Who's going to sit... And by the way... the Daniel Ellsberg movie is titled The Most Dangerous Man in America. Alec Baldwin's pretty dangerous. He shot a woman dead.
Yep. Very fitting.
This is insane.
It is.
I mean, how
it's the liberals. What can you do?
But Joe Rogan's bad.
Yeah.
This is insane.
It's liberal logic.
You cannot make
you can't.
This stuff up.
I'm telling you, I think they did it for the publicity. Serious. I know that sounds nuts, but now everybody knows it's heard of their festival.
Yeah. Well, the jobs numbers came out yesterday, and no one believes the job numbers. Okay, everybody thinks nobody believes the job numbers. They're being called bogus job numbers.
Oh.
Okay, there has never been a seasonal jobs number adjustment in another January ever in history that's this big. So they've had the largest January new jobs increase in the history of the statistics. How can that be possible with this guy? There were some,
especially when when you drive around town in our little town in South Florida. Every business has a help wanted sign. Every business is trying to hire people. And I go into places and I'll talk to people that work there, and they're like, we just cannot get people to come to work. We cannot get people hired. So how can that be true? If it's happening here, it's got to be happening everywhere. All I hear about is how people can't hire people.
So listen to this. The new jobs on the payrolls, 467,000, right? That's how many they reported in the new jobs numbers. 467,000. Which was almost 4 times of what the expert projections were. All the experts, because they always do this, they were announcing they expected 125,000
jobs. Well, because
the
Bidens told them that they have to lower their expectations. Yeah. They're like, you got to give us a lower number so we can go up instead of constantly being down below it.
There is no way that this number is accurate. And, This article I have is in the Gateway Pundit, which is one of my major news sources I always go to. I don't go on the air without checking the Gateway Pundit. Yeah. They're incredible, but it's impossible. And like we were talking earlier, how the media aren't reporting that Dutch television reporter being attacked by the Chinese. They're not questioning the jobs numbers that were 4 times. Usually what will happen is the job numbers, there will be like less than what the experts, and then you'll hear a story on that, or
that's what's been happening.
Or they'll be slightly above.
I think they lowered their expectation number.
I don't think they lowered the expectation.
You said it was 100,000. That's pretty low.
125. No. I think that was an educated, very good number, and the over 400,000 number that the government released, the government of Joe Biden, is fake. I think they made up the number. I think they
I know they did, but I think they also wanted them to put a number lower. So I think the whole thing is fake, so they can come out with this other fake higher number.
Nobody believes that. Now, Carrie Lake is absolutely amazing. She's going to be the governor of Arizona. Carrie Lake has been a guest on this program, and I have Carrie Lake's cell phone and home number. We had her on the show. I'm not going to give it to you guys. Don't worry. But I have Carrie Lake's home number and cell phone number because it was a phone interview, and they gave me 2 numbers, and one was a backup. The cell was a backup. She did the interview from home, and we had her on this program, and she was amazing then. And she's going to be the governor of Arizona, and I expect her to be Ron DeSantis' vice president when Ron DeSantis becomes the second MAGA president in 2028. Now, Carrie Lake, a lot of you may not remember, so I'll just say real quick, but because there's something new with her. Carrie Lake became famous nationally when she quit her news anchor job. She worked at a local Fox News affiliate in Arizona, but she was like the #1 local news affiliate anchor in Arizona, and she was just fed up with the fake news media, and she walked away. And that's how she became famous. See, that's what's going to happen with these freedom truckers. These freedom truckers, some of these truckers are going to become members of parliament in Canada. Yeah, they're going to get it.
That's what happens. That's what's happening here. These people are getting into politics, which is a great thing. That's how you create change. You run for office, you get involved, you run for the school board, you run for city commissioner. Any level is good. You volunteer at a poll. Instead of just sitting on the sidelines bitching and complaining, they're actually getting involved.
Oh, yeah.
The liberals have done so much damage that it has motivated people on the right to finally get active and get involved, and that is scaring the hell out of the left.
No doubt about it.
They don't like to see that.
And, I'm going to play a clip here of Carrie Lake in a moment, which is amazing. But just to say another thing about the freedom truckers in Ottawa, the way that the system works in Canada, they have that parliamentary system. It wouldn't happen in the United States because our system's so different. But among those freedom truckers, there's a good chance that there's a future Canadian prime minister among them.
You never know.
And that's what has Trudeau. And, Trudeau's an elitist. He's only prime minister because his daddy was prime minister when Clinton was president, and it was like
he's about as credible as the president of Ukraine.
I call the president of the Ukraine President Carrot Top because I saw on YouTube a couple weeks ago, because I knew he came from the entertainment world and was a comedian and all. But I never saw any of his work. So I went on YouTube and I saw a couple of highlight reels of this guy. Now, most recently, he was like on the West Wing version, like the version of the West Wing in Ukraine. He was playing the president of Ukraine in a TV show, and now he's the real thing. It's like making Martin Sheen president or something, And
nuts.
And then I saw some of his comedy routine, and it's stupid stuff like Carrot Top. Nothing against Carrot Top, but we don't want to make Carrot Top the president.
I don't think Carrot Top's funny at all.
He used to be.
I never thought he was
When
funny.
I was a kid, I thought he was
He's
funny.
destroyed his face. He's had so much work done.
He's had more work done than
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, he looks like he's transitioning.
He does. I mean, maybe he is, but
Carrot Top and I went to the same university.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
Did. I'm serious. We went to the same university.
Yeah, that's their. Well, my university has some better alumni. We have Robert Urich, Burt Reynolds.
Not my. Well, the three most well-known alumni.
Deion Sanders.
Oh, nothing like that from my. The three most well-known alumni from my university. Carrot Top, number one. I guess I'm like number three, and number two is a porn actress. And of the three, I may be the only one that actually graduated. I don't know if Carrot Top graduated or not.
You went to a good school. You went to a good school.
Yeah,
here
Trump
locally.
University.
No. I wish you'd stop
I always
saying
tell
that.
people that.
No, Brian actually went to a real school here in Florida.
Yeah.
School. But
yeah. Carrot Top and I, we were not in classes together.
No,
but we went to the same university. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, where was I? So, go on YouTube and look at some of the highlight reels of the president of the Ukraine. It is a joke.
Yeah. Well,
that he's the president, but it's In fact, I'll tell you this:
some of our politicians are jokes too.
Yeah. I told Kathy, we have a T-shirt store where we have shirts that Kathy's created. BrianShirts.com. BrianShirts.com.
All one word. Brian Shirts.
Yeah, and I gave Kathy an idea for a new T-shirt, and you get a sneak preview. But I like this idea. Okay, now Biden, just so you get some reference, Biden went to the Senate when Nixon was president, 1973, and I was 2. And 1973, I was 2 years old, and that's when Biden went to the Senate. And I had an idea for a T-shirt for Kathy. Joe Biden, effing things up since 1973.
Yeah,
you like that shirt?
That's a great idea.
I like that shirt.
And I'm working on a T-shirt in support of the truckers, and I'm going to get that done, and then I got to order that and have you wear that on the air.
I like my Biden.
Yeah, I like
idea.
your Biden, so I'll do both. And the T-shirt one is going to, I don't want to say, but it's going to have a semi-truck and then a cute saying on there that's kind of a play on words. And so that'll be a lot of fun.
Well,
I haven't put a new design up in a while.
When I was a kid growing up, when I was a little kid in the 70s, truckers, there was like this huge thing with truckers. We had that movie Convoy with Chris Christopherson.
BJ and the Bear.
BJ and the Bear was a TV show.
Truckers were huge.
And BJ and the Bear was a television show, and BJ McKay was the truck driver, and he had a chimpanzee that rode around with him, and that was the bear.
Well, everybody had a CB. Even CBs were huge. We had one in our car. People had them in their cars, at home. And everybody was on a CB talking to each other.
Oh, my dad had a CB.
Oh, yeah, they were fun.
We had it in the car, and we used to talk on it all the time. And I cannot remember what I had a CB handle. And I'm usually good at these things.
Yeah.
I'll have to think. It'll come to me, and I'll remember. But what it was is my dad had a CB
what
handle.
was his CB handle?
Well, I don't remember because my CB handle was little whatever his was.
Oh. Little S?
No. I'll think of it. I cannot remember, but
I remember mine, but I'm not going to say because I made it up when I was 10 years old.
Yeah, and then there was a television show that was called Moving On, and it was about two truckers, kind of like Wisconsin Gary. They and it was on they were 18-wheeler, and they would go across the country, and they find adventures along the way.
Truckers are awesome, and they're really the backbone of the country because they deliver all the goods and services that we have. I mean, there's things that go on trains, but then they go from the ships, the cargo ships, to the train, at least down here.
No, they go
onto the semis, and then they get delivered.
No, they go from you left that.
Sometimes
they go from the ship to the semi, to the train, and then back to a semi.
Oh, okay.
And
so I skipped a
when
step.
when you watch those shipping containers, those go on semi trailer
Right,
trucks.
yeah, right. Exactly.
People don't realize that. And I even had moving on with truck driving was big in the 70s.
It was really big.
And moving on, the TV show about the two truckers, they had a kid's toy. It was a CB. The moving on, and
remember the song Convoy?
Yeah.
Somebody should be. You should play that song. In honor on the show
Rubber
Monday.
Duck was
in
Chris
honor
Christopherson.
of the Convoy.
Yeah, Rubber Duck was his CB handle.
Rubber Duck.
Rubber Duck was Chris and Convoy.
With Ally
Rubber Duck.
McGraw.
Mm-hmm. But moving on the TV show, they had a toy CB, right? That was a kid's toy, and I had it, but it was a real CB. You bought it in the toy department for the kids.
Cool. Yeah, CBs were big
and
in the 70s.
it was real. And I remember I was like a little kid, and I remember one weekend it was like early in the morning. I was like in my room talking on the CB, and real truckers were talking. It was kind of creepy. You know, real truckers were talking to me.
Now they just do it in chat rooms.
Now there's no. I don't know if CBs are still a thing.
Probably we'll have to ask if you're a trucker. Do you guys still use CBs? I would imagine they do, unless they use their cell phone. But I would imagine they still use CBs. CBs are awesome. And we used to. I don't know if kids still do this, but when we drive on the road in the 70s and 80s, you do that little pull your arm down to get the trucker to pull their horn.
And they do it.
Old days.
I don't know
they
if
would
kids
do it. It was a big deal.
I don't even know if kids know about that anymore.
No, we used to do that all the time with truckers on the highway. Go like,
and
with your arm
and now truckers are cool again. So anyway, let's get back to Carrie Lake. So Carrie Lake, who is just phenomenal. She's
really good.
She was great at the Trump rally a couple weeks back, and she gave an interview. So let me play this clip. This is Carrie Lake, and this is why she's going to be not just the governor of Arizona, but good chance.
Her and DeSantis would make a good match.
She would be a great vice president for DeSantis.
I was down at the border, and within 5 minutes of arriving and stepping out of the vehicle, people were walking over. Under Joe Biden's policy, we had President Trump's policy, Remain in Mexico policy, was the best border policy I've ever seen in my 27 years covering Arizona. It worked. And Joe Biden came in on day one and pulled that. Yep. And now we're seeing a crisis. We need to build a wall. First of all, we need to sue the federal government for failing to protect us. And while that lawsuit is working its way through the system, let's go down and start building the wall. We have many miles of Arizona state land we could be building it on. And let's finish these little gaps. They're coming through a funnel where there's a gap in the president's wall. And it is on federal land. But let's build the wall anyway. What's Joe Biden going to do? Arrest a sitting governor? I mean, honestly.
No.
But we have to have.
Do you think he would?
I would welcome
We're not that
challenge.
far away.
I would welcome
Abbott's
that
building a
challenge
wall.
because he's failing at his duty. The federal government is failing us in Arizona.
That's right.
Okay, and she's of course very MAGA, endorsed by President Trump.
The federal government's job is to protect America from invaders. That is their job. That is why we pay taxes to them, and that is their job as the large body of government. And she's right. They're failing the people on the border, and they're not protecting the American citizens by he has a completely open border now, which we knew was going to happen. But it's not going to be forever. They can enjoy it while it lasts. But she should do what Greg Abbott does, and he's building a wall. And screw Biden, and she'll do the same damn thing, and she'll run on that, and she'll win on that alone, because that's a big issue for them.
And, people like Hillary and Kamala Harris, they just don't get it. Carrie Lake is a real feminist role model. She's not saying, vote for me, I'm a woman.
No,
vote
not at
for
all.
me, I'm the first blank, blank, blank woman.
No,
She's
not at
saying,
all.
listen, there's a problem. We have an open border,
Right.
and all these people are invading Arizona, and when I'm governor, I'm going to stop it.
She gives you a reason to vote for her that has nothing to do with her genitals or
Skin
her
color
skin color
or something.
anything like that. And that's a true feminist.
And not only that, she's better looking than both Hillary
That's for
and
sure.
Kamala ever were. And another thing
She's
about
very
it,
pretty.
when she was at the Trump rally, she was wearing like black leather pants.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and
She's hip.
she's hip, she's cool.
And she's extremely intelligent and articulate. And she probably
a whole life on TV.
understands these issues so well because she was a reporter in Arizona for so long, and she has talked to thousands of people over the years, and so many people, she's got the benefit of celebrity because she was in so many homes and everybody knows her and is comfortable with her. I think she's really. It's going to be who's the governor now? I can't remember.
I can't remember the new governor. It doesn't matter.
It's going to be a landslide for her.
It's going to be her.
And when Trump goes out and campaigns for her, it's going to be a big deal.
And the Kamala Harris. See, Kamala Harris, if she was smart, and she's not, she would get out and active. And Kamala Harris, basically, what she does is just hide out all the time.
She does nothing. I don't understand why she doesn't try to do something. But you know why? Because she's not capable.
No.
Biden is corrupt. Kamala's just inept. She's not capable of doing anything productive or intelligent. She's a stupid woman, and I don't think if you gave her a very simple task to handle, like picking out curtains or something, I don't think she could even handle that. I think if she was given the job, okay, Kamala, you have to pick out the curtains for the West Wing or whatever, I think it would become a complete disaster.
Yeah.
People would get fired, and it would be a huge it'd be a train wreck of a thing, and nothing would go smoothly. That's how bad she is.
Listen, we're going to take a break. We'll come back with our last segment of today's show. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening. Oh, no, not thanks for listening. Yeah, thanks for listening. I'm going to say goodbye. No, we got one more segment to go. I know. Well, I know it's a long show today.
I think this is our longest show on record, isn't it?
Oh, no. When we first started the podcast, we were doing shows that were 2.5, 3 hours long all the time. Yeah.
So we appreciate you all for listening. We really do.
Well, yeah, of course. We'll take our break. We'll be right back with our final segment of today's show right after this. Don't go anywhere.
There's a new children's book that's climbing the charts, Learning the Waves by Riley and Ricky, from author Sherry Young. Illustrations by Natasha Rimez, available on Amazon. Riley and Ricky have become the best of friends. Riley's a dolphin who knows the ocean well. Riley lights up in color to let Ricky know she could be in danger, and it helps Ricky learn how to be safe in the waves. Come along with Riley and Ricky in Book 1 and see how you can also stay safe in the waves. This is a must-have when you're heading to the beach. Learning the Waves by Riley and Ricky is a colorful picture book that's a great way to communicate about beach trips with your child. Children will learn about safety flags on the beach and what each one means. It teaches basic do's and don'ts about safety in the ocean and much, much more. Children should never go in the water without an adult, and watch how Riley helps Ricky understand that. Learning the Waves by Riley and Ricky is available on Amazon. If you have a beach rental property, this would be a great read for your renters. Go to Amazon and order your copy right now. This is a must-have for all beach trips. Your children will love getting to know the cute and adorable characters Riley and Ricky. Learning the Waves by Riley and Ricky, from author Sherry Young. Order your copy on Amazon. From author Michelle dos Santos comes a book that readers have compared to Harry Potter, The Flying Feather, available online at themagicbeanemporium.com. The Flying Feather is a magical novella. It's easy to read for the young and old alike. The Flying Feather prequel is where it all starts. The first installment of this exciting series is about an ordinary boy that receives a rather unusual gift from his grandfather on his 13th birthday. When his grandfather George gives him a feather, he doesn't tell him right away what he has. In fact, inherited. Tommy soon discovers that the old pen is a family heirloom with magical properties. Tommy then has to suspend his disbelief and learn to believe. Author Michelle dos Santos is a writer who recently started offering copies of her book in her coffee shop, The Magic Bean Emporium. The Flying Feather has been gaining popularity, so now she's looking for a literary agent interested in the next big thing. Her fantastic book, The Flying Feather, from author Michelle dos Santos. Order your copy right now online at themagicbeanemporium.com.
Good morning. You're on the radio. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Chaplain Jethro from Flint, Michigan.
Hey, Chaplain Jethro in Michigan. What's up, Chaplain?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mike Lindell for the great product called My Slippers. That cured my neuropathy in a big way. In 10 minutes after I put them on, it went away. This morning, I woke up with leg cramps, put them on, leg cramps gone.
That's amazing.
I tell you, it's a great product.
Which one do you have? I have the tan fur-lined moccasin My Slippers. Which ones do you have, Chaplain?
I have the blue ones, and they're fur-lined also.
I've heard from several listeners that the Mike Lindell My Slippers make their neuropathy go away, and there's very little treatment for neuropathy, and people that suffer from it, it's torture. So I appreciate that. All right, Jethro, I appreciate the call, and thanks for the kind words about Mike Lindell's My Slippers and how they help with your neuropathy.
Yes, indeed, they do.
And right now, when you use the promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, save 50% off the MyPillow My Slippers. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and use our promo code KANE, KANE, for 50% off the MyPillow My Slippers. That's 50% off, but you've got to use the promo code KANE, KANE.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on or on YouTube. All right. Okay, so we got an update here from Trudeau. The Governor General overwhelmed by demands to remove Trudeau from office. Now, let me tell you, in the United States, I know we got a lot of listeners in Canada, the UK, Australia. We have listeners throughout the English-speaking world. But in the United States, we really, as crazy as this sounds, we follow what goes on in the UK more than Canada politically. And so what's going on in Canada, for it to be discussed in the United States is a big deal.
It is a big deal because we never hear about
Canadian politics.
Unless Trudeau does something really stupid.
Then it's just a punchline.
But we don't really typically know too much about Canadians.
The only time, and it's been like 30 years, the only time politics from Canada are discussed in American media is when there was talk of Quebec becoming its own French country or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was 100 years ago.
A lot, yeah.
But listen to this. Receiving an average of 25 to 50 calls per day, Mary Simon's office received 4,600 calls on Thursday involving the truckers' protest. In the wake of the recent truckers' convoy, Canadians have been peppering Governor General Mary Simon's office with calls to dissolve the Canadian federal government and to remove the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, from office. And I guess that means they call for an election because he's losing confidence. As reported in the National Post, they normally receive the 25 to 50 calls a day. Since the truckers' convoy began, the number has exploded. There were over 1,500 calls on Wednesday, over 4,600 at one point in the afternoon on Thursday. It's an unprecedented development. And now you got to, I'll tell you this, okay, the way they operate. These numbers, you've got to multiply by 10. The United States has 10 times the population of Canada. Canada's population is small.
That's true. You have to put it in the relative context of their population.
Yeah, so this would be this would be as if they received 46,000 calls in the United States.
Yeah, true.
It's an unprecedented development in what has become an unprecedented society. The vehemence by which a segment of the Canadian population, when Justin Trudeau gone, has fired up to white-hot levels. The situation is deep-rooted in the fragmentation going on in society. There exist two different factions, one found in government's doghouse, and the other one are just the regular people. This is big. What's happened, and this is why the media in this country aren't covering this. The American media are not in the business of giving you the news. They're in the business of covering up the news, right?
Or creating the news.
Creating fake news. And what they're doing right now is covering up what's going on in Canada. Yeah. And at some point, it is going to get so big that the American mainstream media are going to start covering what's happening in Canada.
They already are. I mean, they already are really, and when you did a show on it last Monday, you had tons of calls from
Canada.
And this is something that, I said to you when you came home, I said, I think you tapped into something here because it seems like the Canadians really need a voice. I don't know anything about talk radio in Canada, but you had a lot of callers and new listeners and everything from Canada. And they were really eager to talk. And people don't like this guy. So I don't know how it works with the prime minister. Can they have like limitless terms, or do they have 2 terms like
No,
president
it's
here?
as long as their party's in power, as far as I know.
Oh, so it's more like England. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's the same system as England. Okay, now we got an update also on Joe Rogan, the N-word controversy. Joe Rogan has spoken up on the N-word controversy.
They've removed 70 more shows.
70 more.
70
Last
more.
I heard it was 45
70
more.
now. They just updated 70.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of shows, really.
That's months of shows. That's months of shows.
He does 5 shows, 20 shows a month.
3-4 months of shows right there.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Joe Rogan is addressing the most regretful and shameful thing he says he has ever had to talk about. The podcast host, whose $100 million deal at Spotify has been called into question by numerous artists in recent weeks, is addressing a video that's gone viral that shows his past use of the N-word. Joe Rogan, age 54, took to Instagram on Friday to share a video in which he expresses his deepest, sincerest apologies. And this is what he said. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out there, a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made up of clips taken out of context of me and 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together. And it looks effing horrible, even to me, Joe Rogan said.
It does.
Yeah. I know to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word. And that's true. I mean, there's no, he says they're out of context. There's certain things that there is no context where it's good. That's right. And that's one. Right. Never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, this is Joe Rogan. But for a long time, when I would bring that word up, even if it would come up in conversations, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. Okay, now here's the thing with this, okay? I don't need to read the rest. He's apologizing and groveling. Okay. This is what – I've been in this business for a long time, and I know what Joe Rogan was doing, okay? When Joe Rogan first started his podcast, really nobody was listening or paying attention. He was not really famous. He, the fear factor was gone. I guess he was doing the MMA stuff. He wasn't big. So what Joe Rogan was doing was what Howard Stern did to get famous. He was trying to be outrageous,
like a shock jock.
Yeah, he was doing shock jock, outrageous just to be outrageous to get attention.
Plus, I think
that's coming back to him now.
He hangs out with a lot of athletes, I think, and would have a lot of athletes on his shows, and maybe that's just the kind of language he's used to hearing and saying, and maybe in his circles, it's never been questioned or challenged. I don't know why anybody would use that word, black or white, but especially if you're white and you're on a show, I think it's insanity.
He was just trying to get attention.
Yeah, well, that's not the right way to go about it. And he's getting attention now. And like you and I said earlier, I think personally this is going to be his downfall, because that's just something that people just don't want to say, oh, that's okay.
Well,
you know, and I think that's going to really enrage the Obamas more than anything, and it's really going to get them on the bandwagon to get rid of him.
Listen, this is not the first time leftists have done this to people. I the first time that I saw this compilation of things, this was done to the great Bob Grant. He was at WABC. No, he was at not ABC. He was at I want to say RKO. Somebody let me know in the comments. This was
RKO. You're going way back. That's like
he was at one of the old radio stations in New York. I can't remember which one it was. It was not ABC.
I'll have to ask Steve. He'd know.
But anyway, it's killing me because it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, Bob Grant was exploding in popularity nationally. This was in the early 90s, and a liberal group that was that did not want him to get this national syndicate. He was big in New York always, but he was getting ready to get a huge national syndication deal. And he was very conservative, and they were trying to stop this. And they put together a compilation that was about 60 seconds long of things that he had said that were offensive, and they were said over years, and they edited together. And it sounds horrible when you edit these things together. And and they were successful in stopping him. You could do that
with really almost anybody. I mean, not everybody says the N-word, but you could take a compilation of somebody's career and condense it into 30 seconds and make anybody look bad, really. I mean, it is taken out of, but there's no context where it's appropriate. That's true.
The N-word's
with that word,
a whole nother thing. But
that is a whole other level.
There are organizations that just monitor Sean Hannity every day. And Rush used to talk about this, and you'll still hear Hannity. They're listening. They're monitoring. And
he's right. They're right.
And Rush and Hannity and people like that have always kept that in mind when they speak so that they don't say – and I learned from the Bob Grant thing, you know, you got to – when you talk publicly on the radio, on a podcast, on television, and this is me personally. I know I'm not Joe Rogan, but, you know, I've been around for a few minutes and have a couple
You're
of
better
listeners.
than Joe Rogan.
I don't know, but I got a couple listeners. I do not say anything on the radio, on the air, in any format that I do that I would not say in my mother's house in front of my mother. You know, you've got to. And another thing that I always tell this to people: whatever you say, assume that everyone on the planet Earth is listening.
Well,
to
the
you.
problem with Joe Rogan is he does not come from a broadcasting background like you do. And I know that you're like Ted Cruz. You're very careful with your words.
I choose them carefully.
You know, and you've learned that because you've been in broadcasting for 30 years, and you've learned that the hard way. I'm sure in the past you've said things live that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you know, that maybe you'd get in a lot of trouble for it. Not the N word, but other things. Maybe things deemed a little sexist, or, you know, it was the 90s. But, you know, he's not coming from that point of view. And his point of view is, I'm a guy hanging out with my friends and we're just shooting the breeze. And, you know, it's a podcast, so I can say whatever the hell I want, which is true. But when you get to the level where he is at, you are under a lot more scrutiny. There's a price to pay for this kind of fame and money that he's making. And that's why I say I bet he regrets making this deal no matter how much he's making.
But when he said the N-word, he wasn't under any scrutiny because he didn't have anyone listening.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. When he said these things, he was just sitting there hanging out with his friends, shooting the breeze, and he was not working for a big company and under the same scrutiny. In fact, you know, he had listeners, but nobody seemed to care. All of a sudden, it's an issue. I mean,
and now they go back.
These are things he has said on the online.
Now that he's
all of a sudden, now it's a problem.
Well, what's happening now? There are teams of people going through everything he ever said all these years to find things, and like they did with Bob Grant. And you know, sometimes people will call me and they'll say, "Oh, why don't you say this or that?" Or they'll say something that's outrageous. I say, you can't say that on the air. And
he does that to me all the time.
And I'll say, well, you know, I'm not some guy talking to his friends in his living room. This isn't a phone conversation. And you and especially in today's cancel culture, whatever you say publicly, assume that everyone on the planet is listening to it.
And also assume that your words can come back to really bite you in the ass. Like that they really... You have to be very measured and careful, and you hate to be that way. But he did show with complete abandon and no accountability, and now he's being held accountable for things he said years and years
because
ago.
He was trying to get attention by being outrageous. Like I've been listening to Megyn Kelly's podcast this week.
Yeah, she's good.
And I've been listening to it because of the Jeff Zucker thing at CNN, and she's got a lot of insight on that.
I recommend people listen to her. She's good.
I have not listened to her podcast in a while. I listened to it in the beginning, and I haven't listened to it. And I just started listening to it this week to get some Jeff Zucker dirt.
Yeah, she's good.
And I know she's doing something, Megyn Kelly, she didn't do in the beginning, she's doing now. And it's just mild, but she's doing it to be edgy. She uses profanity. Like she'll
that's
say,
pretty unprofessional.
She'll say the S word, you know, mild stuff. You know, she's not. I haven't heard her say the F word, but I've heard her say the S word. And I know it's the internet. And you can swear. I don't swear on the program.
I think once in a while it's okay. I mean, I've said a curse word here and there, and Brian will give me a face. I think you're a little snobbish with that a little bit because you're a broadcaster. Well, I don't mind it. Trump even says the S word and the crowd goes nuts.
They love it.
Once in a while, I think if it's in the right context, I think it's appropriate. If you use it as a crutch, like Joe Rogan says the F word constantly, That's why I don't like his show.
Well,
every other word's the F word.
Yeah.
And it's gratuitous. It's a crutch.
Well, that's why Megyn Kelly
Once in a while,
is using
it's-
profanity, though.
Right, but that's okay. Once in a while, it's appropriate. It's like there's no other word. That's it. It's an S show. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite expressions.
Megan,
you gotta say.
Megyn Kelly uses profanity so she can sound edgy.
Well,
and, you don't hear
whatever.
a news person say. If you watch on YouTube, you've probably heard me use a few swear words, like during a commercial break, like something will happen. And I did once, and sometimes I've never heard Brian swear before. Well, you're watching, during the commermal.
He swears, trust me.
Yeah, I
Once
don't
in
do
a
it on
while.
the air.
No, and you don't swear a lot at home, but you do. You do, okay, once in a while.
happens.
It
happens.
It's not like you're doing it all the time, but, you're human.
Yeah. Yeah, but when people do things like Rogan was to be outrageous to get attention, down the road, that attention-seeking thing, they hold you accountable for it today, which is insane.
Plus, people do grow up.
Yeah.
And I would say that he's 45? He's 50-something now?
54, I think it's
54.
like
Oh, he's older than us. I'm sure he is, plus he's married. And when he did these shows in the past, he was probably a single guy, younger, hanging out with his bachelor friends. You change, you grow up, you mature, the way you speak changes over time, you evolve typically if you're a normal person. And I'm sure there's things if you listen to yourself on the radio 20 years ago, you absolutely cringe at what you said. And I'm sure if we listen to old podcasts, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't even handle it. So but like we said, there's no context where the N-word is proper. But he did say it over his career 22 times, apparently, and maybe even more. He was comfortable saying it. And I think that's the problem he's getting into is this word is kind of one of those absolutes, like we were talking about with Whoopi Goldberg, one of those things you just, common sense is not a smart thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened to Paula Deen. She said it in private one time.
Well, she said
in a private conversation at the dinner table with her husband.
That's not what happened. No. Paula Deen, she got canceled for using the N-word. No. Paula Deen, before she was famous, worked at a bank. The bank was robbed by a black man who put a gun to her head and robbed her. And she was interviewed by the police, and she used the N-word describing that's our dog barking.
Oh, I don't think so. I think she had told her husband at a dinner table.
No. That was another story.
Well, it was a one-time
When she was describing the bank robber who put a gun to her head to the police.
She said the N-word.
She said the N-word right after the bank robbery. And she was in a deposition about something.
Destroyed her career.
And they asked her if she ever used the N-word. And she said, yeah, this guy that put a gun to my head when I worked at a bank was robbing the bank. And that's what got rid of her.
Here she was being honest. She didn't even say it publicly
that's why I say
on a
Joe
podcast.
Rogan. No.
And look what happened to her. And she was a beloved person on Food Network.
And when they went after Janice Dean, they didn't care about Paula Dean. They didn't care about the bank robber that put a gun to her head. It was that she used the N-word in describing a man who was ready to kill her.
Yeah, that was insane. When the Food Network dropped her for that, I thought it was ridiculous.
Meanwhile, Bobby Flay left the scene of a thing. Remember, he had there was an accident, and he fled the scene drunk years ago.
I don't like Bobby Flay.
I don't like him either. Well, listen, we're all out of time, and we've gone way over. This is our longest podcast episode in many years.
I think so.
Yeah.
So if you're currently in the chat and you've hung out with us this whole time,
oh yes,
we really appreciate it. If you haven't, that's okay. We'll forgive you, but we really appreciate you sticking around.
Yeah, this is our longest podcast episode in years.
Yeah,
years.
We had a lot to talk about.
And I've got more, but I'm not bringing up the other stuff because
we could go another hour easy. But dinner's here, the pizza's here. We got to go eat.
That's right. Listen, we are out of time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.